into this show that you suggest. And speaking of the US and things happening over there, your multi from left field the multi-leg is going berserk. Is it now 7 from 8?
Hopefully people won some money because we took it with Jamie Bale, who was drawn to absolute perfection at the Meadows. So hopefully people have got some money in their pockets.
So yesterday we had the Rams to win at the line plus 6.5.
And they lost by 6.
They rolled by 6.
Perfect.
You should start your own religion, fair income.
Perfect.
And Pat, you got a late scratching here. The Blue Dogs out. Book of Capers, number 4 out of this race at Healesville for the third.
Jeez, I want to wake up to that noise. Growing up with that on RSN 927 in the car was absolutely iconic. All right, they're at their boxes for race 3 at Healesville. Let's get to our good friend, very good friend, James Vandermart.
So, a nice little place to be, that's for sure. They're about to load now for race number 3. I can vouch for it, that's for sure. 2:30 about the Pink Midnight Shimmer. Late scratching here of Book of Capers was quite a late scratching today as they move in. Field of 6, favourites in box 8, Midnight Shimmer. Good run at Warragul 2 starts ago and they're set to run now. Green light on. Jump well, Midnight Shimmer from the outside. Will land 2 lengths in front from Little Miss Miranda and Super Potato out fast. The outside brigade have it early. Then Sugaroo making good ground from It's Aiden and long levers at the end. It's Midnight Shimmers being pressured by Little Miss Miranda who's driving, but Midnight Shimmer's responding. Midnight Shimmer did enough, won it by a half to Little Miss Miranda. Third Sugaroo, a breakaway to Super Potato. It's Aiden last in long levers and the run 17:38 for Midnight Shimmer. Just does enough to stave off Little Miss Miranda. They had a good tussle at the 100-metre mark. It looked a race where there was at least 3 chances, but the favourite's been able to lift sufficiently for Connie McMillan. It'll take out the third, number 8, Midnight Shimmer. Daughter of Shimmer Shine, Midnight Carmen, Constance McMillan at Druin, number 8 first, beating 6, Little Miss Miranda for Barry Morse, Hardstyle Rico, Grace Intention, the Bridwood Syndicate for Barry Morse at Endeavour Hills, and third across the line goes to number 2, Sugaroo. Came into it with some slick speed mid-race, Daughter of Shimmer Shine, Sugar Spice, S-Flower for Nat Fullerton, preparing out of Long Gully. So 8, 6, 2, 7, 3/4 the winning margin. 3/4 by a length and a half, and we just await the all clear to wrap up race number 3. Those numbers 8, 6, 2, 7. More to come after the third, but it's the $2.50 favourite Midnight Shimmer home to score in race number 3 of the afternoon.
Good on you, James. Thank you. And I've got those. Number 8, Midnight Shimmer, $2.50 and $1.50. 6, Little Miss Miranda, $1.90. No third div. Number 2, Sugaroo. And 7, Super Potato. The Quinella, $4.60. Exacta, $10. The Trifecta, $16. First 4, $58. 8, 6, 2, 7. And the running double 1 and 8 paid $8.80. Late scratching was the Blue Dog, number 4. Sub was 8, Midnight Shimmer. And it was the winner.
The winner. Thank you, John Henry. And before we wrap up our chat on the US, I mean, you learn something new every day, George. And you two are my US correspondents. And John was telling me earlier that rugby union's a big thing in California. Never would have thought that.
There's a few Australian lads over there on scholarships to play rugby union. Don't worry about that.
And Ollie through watching the Big Bash, and we have to talk about the Melbourne Stars before we go to Jace. What a Herculean performance to get into the thing. I didn't realise how big their sort of Big Bash league in America is too. A lot of Australians went over there to play, didn't they?
Oh, do you say how big it is, or how invested some very rich people are?
Yeah,
to try and get it off the ground.
I suppose you're in the States, so it's probably a pretty attractive place to go and play.
Yeah, it would be, and I guess no matter who they get over there, from my point of view, it would never be as entertaining as the European Cricket League.
Yeah.
You been watching the tennis?
I watched last night's game, yeah. Alcaraz versus Djokovic, but not much of it, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't seen a lot. One thing I did take on board is I might take some inspiration from Tony Jones on Temlee night. Might give the trainer some curry and see what I get back.
A storm in a teacup that was.
Was it ever?
Yeah.
All right, let's get on to the real stuff. Big night at the Meadows on Saturday night. Not that there was any feature racing at all, but we saw 2 unbelievable performances from Lanfranco and also Vincent Bale. Firstly on Lanfranco, I mean, this is some sort of training performance from Team Menace. Now, it's not because they've got this boy firing when he wasn't once. His ability's been unquestioned, but his maturity has come a long way. And since he's first started racing, you had no idea what you're going to get from him. And on Saturday night, set the 4th fastest time ever seen at the Meadows over the 730 metres, only behind Space Star, Nelly Noodles and Tornado Tears.
The incredible part of the run, Jason, was he was sort of neck and neck with Reiterate.
He got cross grounds.
Yeah, and then he put like 6 or 7 lengths on him within the space of, till they got to the 600-metre boxes and even further. It was an incredible run. I think Jamie Ennis was one of our earlier guests on our show, and we spoke about Lanfranco, and we had a little bit of a chuckle, and I'm paraphrasing here, but Jamie pretty much said that he's a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde type of greyhound. You just don't know what you're going to get. He'd have a joke with the owners about it. I didn't expect him to run that quick, though. I mean, he's always had the ability to run quick time, but that is ridiculously quick. I thought he'd be capable at his absolute best to run a 42.40 or something like that. I think that's a pretty fast time. That'll win you 9 out of 10 group races over 720, over the 730 at the Meadows. But to run 42.08, and greyhound racing, like a lot of sports, is all about timing, and to get at that quicker time in the lead up to the Zoom Top is pretty amazing, because we do have a change in the way it's selected, the field. So you'd think Lanfranco is certainly going to be looked at by...
I was about to ask, would you have him in?
Well, if you're basing it on...
the best race?
If you're basing it on the best race, if this was 3 or 4 years ago, or it was based on group races, he wouldn't even get a look in, because he's never performed at that level or even sort of been in any, I think. So, but now that the whole system has changed, you've got to go with what you guys are looking at, and that's the best race. Is he among the best 8 in the country? Well, after that run, you'd have to suggest that he would make the race pretty exciting, you'd say.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's got a different point of view when it comes to that, but from mine, he'd be a no-brainer to go into a race like that. And the other big performance on the night, Vincent Bale, he set the 3rd fastest time ever in a race behind Alan Deed and Aston Rupee. I mean, this boy, for a long period of time, since last year's maturity, he's looked like a real class act, but he's coming into his own with a great gusto win over the past couple of months.
Yeah, I've absolutely... I mean, we tipped him in the Warragul Cup. He wasn't good enough there. Obviously, Pass the Buck beating him. Just on that, did you see Pass the Buck's win at Geelong?
No.
That was incredible on Friday. Go and have a watch of that. But on Vincent Bale, what I love, Jace, is the speed between the markers. 5:14, which is okay, and then to go 17:56 is just incredible. And then his run home. I mean, he lacks pretty much nothing. Maybe not the explicit type 5 dead early, but if he's thereabouts and he draws well, Jace, I mean, again, it was just an incredible run. I love the way he's emerging. We've seen him for a little while, but he's getting scary now. That run was fantastic. Look, the track was good. There was another greyhound stomping who ran in the 29.5s, but You've still got to run it, and to nearly break the track record is a testament to the way this dog's going.
Yep, I put him in the same category as a Miss Envy. I mean, they don't have anything about him that's lethal. They don't break 5 seconds early. They're not going to come from last and win in the last 200 metres, but they are just professional race dogs doing some extremely good things. So that was at the Meadows on Saturday night.
It's scary considering his run home time too, James. I mean, 11.80s.
Both ends is just something you can't buy.
So you can imagine, you've got so many nice races over the 500, but he's going to be so versatile heading into 600-metre races as well. I mean, there's a big race coming up, I think, at Dubbo. I'm not saying this is what the Grenfell team are going to do, but there's some big races coming up over middle distances as well where they might be tempted to have a crack at.
Good action at Wentworth Park on Saturday night. The 2 Group 1s won by Laura Keeping and Poor Oswald. Laura Keeping winning the Futurity in really tough style. And, of course, from a Victorian point of view, Team Delbridge picking up the derby with Poor Oswald.
Well, yeah, he was probably the most impressive thing I seen on the night, for the sense that his last month has been really, really good, and we had a little bit of an interest in it with the Ladbrokes Racing Club Greyhound zipping Christoph drawn box 1, and I can tell you, trainer Jason Magri's got a very high opinion of him, and Poor Oswald was just simply too good for him. I mean, they were going hammer and tong down the back, the both of them, but Poor Oswald overpowered him and ran very quick time, and as I said, his last 4 wins have been fantastic. 29.30 at Sandown Park, and to do what he did at Wentworth Park is very, very good. So that's the other question now, Jason, in regards to selection. And again, it's easy for me to play devil's advocate because I'm not on the selection panel, but does a greyhound like Paul Oswald come into contention for the Tem Lee? Because you guys have shied away, or the Meadows have shied away from picking bona fide group performances. But, I mean, he comes fresh off a Group 1. I mean, does he get in ahead of some other greyhounds who don't have Group 1 winning form?
Yeah, well, I'm not a part of this one. I am a part of the Top Gun one. So, I mean, Corey Smith would be the best person to speak to about this. But I'd say, at least particularly from a GRV grading point of view, there will be heavy emphasis on rankings, I'd say.
Yeah.
So given he has won a race of significant prize money at Group 1 level, his will come down. So it's a great conversation to have. And, I mean, we have these combos every time we come into a handpicked field, which is the beauty of it. But whether you have him in...
Yeah, well, that's the thing. And I think that's the beauty of having that hand-picked field, because it's going to be opinion-based, and then obviously the GRV graders get involved as well. So, as we said, you're never going to stop the conjecture that goes along with it, and people are going to be disappointed, especially the 2 reserves or the 11th and 12th greyhound. But it's an interesting conversation. But his last month, I know he's rising in class and it was age-restricted, but poor Oswald's last month has been fantastic.
Summer Distance Plate was won by Late Night News, which had a real sour taste that whole race because Kenya Amy went to the front. She was going to be hard to beat. She went amiss, and that would have been one of the all-time battles between her and Late Night News. But unfortunately, we didn't get that, but a very promising stayer in Late Night News was very good.
Yeah, 41.60 is a very, very fast time, but you could understand what Kenya Amy was doing out in front. She was going to run very, very quick.
She was going to run probably quicker based on what she did the week before.
Yeah, she was. So that's disappointing. You never want to see that with greyhounds. So obviously we've seen it with Blue Camaro, who they announced his retirement, Jace, after we were still umming and ahhing last week. It looked pretty serious, but yeah, that's disappointing, but hopefully he goes well at stud.
All right, before we turn our craniums to preview mode, a few text messages have come in. When we're looking for the greyhound racing version of Donald Trump before, it's been a bit of a sidestep here. If you do lookalikes, Jeff Britton looks like Mr. Sheen.
I always thought Jeff Britton looks like Carl Pilkington, Ricky Gervais' sidekick from some TV shows and radio shows. He wasn't in The Office, Carl Pilkington, but he does look like Jeff Britton, so that's probably more an apt.
Extras?
No, not in extras. He was in An Idiot Abroad.
I'm 2 and Zip. A Zip and 2.
Yeah, have a watch of that.
Was he a tall bloke?
No.
All right, greyhound version of Trump. How about G. Ferrugia from Pete and Lara?
No? No. Cheryl's more like Melania than I am Trump, probably.
And a message from abroad as well. Ashy, ex-Kensington boy tuning in from NZ. Love my Vic Dogs. Good on you, Ash. Thanks for tuning in. Big couple of days ahead, George. Tonight we head to Ballarat, Heats of the Derby, which is just a really good series. I mean, year after year it produces greyhounds that you don't necessarily know at this point in time that are superstars, and Epitomise might be an exception to that, but you get some outstanding careers off the back of it. You only have to go through some additions in recent time, and just a few years ago, and the one that was won by Music Events. You got some other names by the likes of Aston Rupee, Silver Lake, Aussie Secret, Ferdinand Boy. So it can produce some absolute guns, and although we don't have many heats tonight, it's still a pretty good lineup.
Yeah, it is, and it's based on the fact that the prize money's good, and they get to race at Ballarat against their own age and sex. Obviously, in the first heat, Giacomo, who obviously made the Silver Chief finals, got really good speed, drawn closer to the fence. You'd think he's going to be hard to beat in that first heat, Jace. I'm not sure which way you're leaning there. Really looking forward to this second heat with Zeus Thunderbolt in it, and Shimmer Seal and Poor Utility are 2 greyhounds drawn off the track that have got some ability as well. Spencer is another one that showed a little bit early, but you'd think Zeus Thunderbolt would be hard to beat there.
Yeah, he would be. I mean, he's only, fresh after a long spell, but what we saw in that heat of the Warragul Cup suggests that he's absolutely humming at the moment.
And this heat's probably the toughest. Kanya All Up's favourite against Epitomise, which is a little bit of a surprise. Kanya All Up's clearly a young greyhound on the rise, but you'd think he's maybe a couple of months behind Epitomise to what Epitomise had done. So maybe that'll change. There's not much between them, about $1.80 to $2.20, but this is a ripper heat. Some of those other greyhounds in it are double-figure odds, can really run, but you'd think Epitomise, if he can get out cleanly, will be tough to beat despite drawing box 5. So the winners, seconds and 2 fastest thirds go through to that final next Wednesday, which we will preview.
Yep, be an absolute cracker, no two ways about that. Sandown Park tomorrow night on the traditional Australia Day themed meeting. We've got the Maidment and also the Australian Sprint, and The Australian Sprint in particular, Georgie, is a good field, but intriguing as well. You've got the star factor of Flying Zulu, Big Energy, Here Comes Millie, but they've got Portika in box 2, who we know wants to get off the track pretty desperately. So it's a pretty messy speed map, but at least from a quality point of view, it's very deep.
Yeah, and that's a disappointing part for poor Vortex, drawn in box 3 with that greyhound in box 2, as you mentioned. Flying Zulu last week was incredible. We touched on that against Mapunga Tully. Big Energy. We know that Stormy Day can begin. I think he had box 6 to win the Harrison Dawson when he was huge odds for the Sharp family. So he can get the start right as well. But love that battle between Flying Zulu and Big Energy. Now in the Brad Greeno kennel.
Yep, that's it. Okay, so that's the Australia Day Sprints. Race 8 at Sandown tomorrow night. Then also the Maidment, which comes up as race 6. Now, you mentioned a greyhound earlier called Stomping, who was unbelievable at the Meadows on Saturday night. But look, he's come up with box 1, which has to be a good thing for him. But Zipping Hopkins, back up to 600 metres. Kenya All Class, we see for the first time since he finished down the track in the Sale Cup. So a lot of intrigue around this as well.
Yeah, look, I mean, great to see Kenya All Class back. Just absolutely hate where he's drawn, Jace. There's a little bit of speed in this race. And
where's he drawn?
Box 8. I just think from out there, you always have that tendency to be camped out and you find a little bit of trouble. And we're talking about greyhounds who are probably going to run 33.9 here, especially if your boy Zipping Hopkins gets anywhere near them early. He's got a very good PB of 33.93. I'm going to stick with Stomping in that race. I'm not sure where you're headed. He's just drawn really well. He's clearly come back into form. He had a bit of a lull there, but he's racing very, very well at the moment. And I think sometimes greyhounds like that can be off and gone and be hard to catch.
Yeah, I don't know from a tipping point of view, but I disagree with Kenya All Class. I think he's drawn okay. I mean, the longer his career has gone on, he went in very early stages to being a greyhound who would be looking for the inside and needs a bit of luck as a tardy beginner, to now, as what we've seen in recent months, he's more than happy to run around other greyhounds. So I don't think 8 is totally lights out, but you're right, you don't want to be caught.
No.
4th or 5th, 50 metres into the race.
Yeah, and that was certainly, we're not suggesting that he's going to fence crash by any means, but yeah, you just don't want to be camped out when they're running that quick out in front, that's all. So that's the concern for me, especially if he's going to come up as favourite or a short price one.
Yep, indeed. Okay, so they're the 2 features at Sandown tomorrow night. There's a big night up at Albion Park, and some Victorian Star Factor are part of that meeting as well. We'll get to that shortly, but in the meantime, they're at the boxes for the 4th at Hillsville. Let's get on track with Jim.
That is Archer 9, and these runners about to be loaded for race number 4, running 300 metres the distance, and the favourites in the black rug, Aston Flurry, and they are about to load. So they're up behind the start now, 300 metres the distance. 2:25 now about Aston Flurry. He's going to run the market elect at 2:25. She's done her best racing from inside draws, so box number 7 maybe not ideal, but she is down a bit in class, and they're moving in. So the favourites in black, Chewbacca steady, and money for Archer 9 as well. They're set to bounce now for the 4th. The green light turned on, set, and they're racing, and Aston Flurry's jumped really well from the outside. Champions away quickly. He's going to cross and lead over Aston Flurry, who's alongside. One Knee Noni a length away. Then Archer 9, B Little, and at the end of the field now dropping away Mr. Holiday. It's One Knee Noni after Aston Flurry, who immediately responds, and Aston Flurry came away. Aston Flurry won it well by 2 to One Knee Noni. Third Chewbacca drove through to grab that over Archer 9, and then Champions, who was folding up at the end from B Little and Mr. Holiday. Times 17:03 for Aston Flurry. Number 7, really coming clear late, hard up against the paint, just was able to glide across outside of Champions, apply the pressure at the gum tree, and after taking the lead has been able to draw clear and win nicely. Number 7 first, defeating 6 One Knee Noni. Third goes the way of, I'd say, the 1 Chewbacca has been able to pick up and grab that ahead of number 2 Archer 9. So 7 the winner. Favourite money right on the target there. Was the best back runner in the race, and Julie salutes at an odds-on quote. Second in goes to 6 One Knee Noni. Run a nice race for the runners-up check, and third number 1, a distant third Chewbacca. The winner for Ray Border, Matt Tab, Aston Rupee, Aston Zephyr. 7 the winner, beating 6 One Knee Noni. Jordan Formosa at Heathcote, Shimmer Shine, Lily Patch.
So that's another favourite. 7, 6, 1 and 2. Aston Flurry. The Black Dog wins at $1.70 and $1.04. 6, 1 Ninoni. $3.10. No third for number 1 Chewbacca. 2 Archer 9 as called by James into fourth. 7, 6, 1 and 2. Get your quaddies on. Race 5 is the first leg next, of course. Quinella, $4.70. Exacta $6.90. The trifecta's paid $22 and the first 4 $34. Early quaddie at Healesville today. 2, 1, 8 and 7, $58. And the running double 8 and 7 has paid $7.70. Jason and George.
I love my rhyming slang, Johnny, and particularly from a greyhound point of view. And that trainer in the last winner at Healesville, Matty Tab, he's been subject of a bit of rhyming slang as well. Something Georgie's very good at, to be honest, picking up the Matty Tab after a Friday afternoon session. I thought you were going to say
when you go and buy a slab, Matty Tab.
Oh, you could do that.
Oh, okay.
No, I was thinking financially, Matty Tab. Royal Standard, you've had about
you got to pay
15, 16 pots, and you're pretty good at
don't want to go for a drink
table
with people with spiders in their pocket.
No, there's a few of those around.
No. As an old mate of mine used to say, he could peel an orange in his pocket. He's that tight.
Oh, so haven't heard that before.
Yeah. Anyway, we move on.
We're
talking about the same person, are we? Okay.
Probably. All right. Gold Bullion heats at Albion Park tomorrow night. And look, going through this, George, when they came out, I looked at it and sort of felt a little bit confused. Is it best 32 or what? Because there's only 4 heats and they're the perfect 8-dog field. So I guess for a race of this sort of significance, and I can't remember the depth of the nominations in recent years since this race was introduced, but surely that's pretty disappointing that the 4 heats for a race of this nature.
Yeah, and look, again, my first thought when I seen it, Jace, was that the fields looked a little lackluster. I mean, there's some absolute stars going around, but it's just, I don't know. It didn't. From years gone by, I thought the heats were a little bit better. Maybe some of the bigger trainers, not bigger trainers, maybe some of the other greyhounds deciding to stay in Melbourne.
I know Jamie Ennis has been one in the past that would be, say, hesitant to send up an Emma on Boyne at this time of the year purely because it's just hot.
Yeah, it is very hot. The conditions can get to them. And obviously with the Australian Cup just around the corner, maybe. I don't know, Jace. It just looked a little bit flat, but we can go through them. And I think the storyline centres around Morton and his return to the racetrack. I think it's
really good to see his name back in the form guide, isn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, obviously there was an injury the latter part of last year, and we haven't seen him back for a while. He trialled well, I think, there in the lead up. So. Look, he's already a Group 1 winner on the track, so
no stranger to it.
Yeah, it's good to see him back. Not favourite. He's up against a greyhound that's recently joined the Prince, Tommy Savalas' kennel in Deadly Avenger, and we all know how quick he can be as well. The greyhound off box 1, Rec James, is a quick greyhound, so that's a pretty nice way to start off the Gold Bullion with those greyhounds drawn 1, 2 and 3.
Heat 2, Vincent Bale.
Yeah.
We spoke about how good he was on Saturday, and now I strongly doubt he's seen Albion Park, but I mean, for one of his class and the way he races, it just won't matter.
They haven't missed him. They've given him the visitors box here. Would have been nice to see him drawn 1 or 2 because you'd think he'd be then a very, very good chance to qualify, but he's shopping it around even money odds, and I think you're only getting that because of the box and because of the probably the workload he's had. You're right, wouldn't have had a chance to go up there and have a look. So there's always a little bit of a risk when you're taking on some greyhounds who have been there and done that at that track, but in terms of ability, clearly he's the best greyhound in the race.
Third heat, Warm Cockles, who took advantage of the late scratching of Lakeview Emily last week in those match races, meets Orly Bale. Dacey's Rory, of course, was the Racing Queensland representative in the Phoenix.
Yeah, and it was a terrific story in the Phoenix, the way Dacey's Rory raced. I'm a sucker for Orly Bale. I just like the greyhound. I think he's drawn well, and he'd be where my money is. But Warm Cockles, we've tipped him a few times, and he hasn't let us down, Jace. His form's been pretty good, but I think if Orly Bale goes well around that track, I think he'll be hard to beat.
And the last heat has some serious depth as well. Mapunga Tully and your boy, Smooth Plane in the yellow and black, which probably doesn't sit too well with you, but doesn't seem to harm in Baz draws.
Yeah, good to see the two Victorians go head-to-head here, Tully and Smooth Plane, and hopefully they can both qualify. But as we said, Tully's run last week behind Flying Zulu in 29 O's was fantastic. Can she sometimes be a little bit hit or miss, Jace, right?
Yes.
I mean, we don't often, sometimes we don't see the best of her. Smooth Plane can It doesn't matter if he's drawn the car park, even though they'd prefer to draw a good box. But he's dealt with these type of box draws for his career. He's had a couple of weeks to acclimatise there now. He'd be where I'm leaning at around the $2.80 mark.
And, of course, there is a support series in the Gold Cup for the Stayers. 3 heats of that. Valpolicella meets your girl Groovebird in the opener heat. Fair challenge, but you're certainly not meeting Valpolicella at the peak of her powers.
Well, it's lucky that we aren't, because she would just blow our doors away.
Probably.
But the thing with Valpolicella and her home ground is that she could replicate her best and still blow them away. And at around the $3 mark, it's probably value for people of fans of Valpolicella for sure. So hopefully the bird goes okay, but we're dealing with a gun.
And runners of interest in that second heat of the Gold Cup, Passmark, Ethanol Water and Irish Millie.
You'd think Ethanol Water would be incredibly hard to beat, wouldn't you? I mean, Passmark's win there 2 starts back was good, but you'd think Ethanol Water would be incredibly tough to beat because its 600-metre run was very good. It had no luck in that Golden Sands final, stepping up over a distance where she's tried and true, and that's where I'd be heading.
And in the last heat, I don't know much about most of these dogs, but the ones that I do are the 2 ones to beat in Black Silencer and Late Night News, who we mentioned before was very good at Wentworth Park on Saturday night.
Yeah, look, again, we speak about the Prince. He had an unbelievable 2024, Tom Savalas. I think at Ipswich there was heats of the Vince Curry Maiden, and he won 5 of those heats. So, and he's run last week, Black Silencer, in very good time. Should hold him in good stead here. Interesting to read that article about Black Silencer, that he doesn't often lead like he did. I mean, he just got his own way and was just too good for them, and that's the Black Silencer we love to see. So, be interesting to see if he gets his own way this week. But in terms of talent, clearly the dog to beat.
Yep. All right, so there's the points of interest at Albion Park tomorrow night, mainly focus around some Victorian stars. And look, there's nothing better, is there, Georgie, than interstate series and having Victorians absolutely run amok. It's beautiful to see.
Might have to fly up there with Carl Pilkington if Jeff Britton makes a few in next week. That'll be fantastic. Including
he's not bad with an away trip, Jeff, with the white shorts on.
I've never been. I've just heard rumours.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I've experienced it. He does go well.
Good.
All right. Text message has come in from Mark in Williamstown. Just interested in your thoughts on a very talented dog named Reiterate. He keeps getting beat at short odds, and I'm starting to think, as they say, dogs take after their owner, that he's lacking in the heart department and courage department. So small tick up, probably partially true there in that circumstance. Georgie, I did get an email overnight from Travis, who gave us some good feedback in terms of how he rates the show, but also wanted some updates on some superstar greyhounds. So I've been able to do that. The first of them, Miss Envy, who, of course, was out of contention for the Gold Bullion. She's now down with Calgrino, so getting ready for the Temlee, and they're hoping...
Had a little injury, didn't she?
Yeah, toe injury. So they're hoping to get a trial into her and then nominate for a start in the Temlee. Tim Zoo's another one. They will nominate for the Temlee with him, Australian Cup, then possibly, as you mentioned, that 600-metre feature at Dubbo coming up. He might be heading in that direction. Another one was Del Winnie. He's out at the moment and 6 weeks away from racing. McKenna, she's on season, finishes at the start of March, and the camper decided not to breed because she's got unfinished business on the racetrack. And the other one, Palawa King, he'll have a 300-metre trial somewhere in New South Wales this Friday, and then possibly return for the heats of the Superstars in about 3 weeks' time.
Did you mention Lakeview Emily, who came on season?
No.
Yeah. So that's why she was out last week. Should we go through the tips quickly, or we can't? No? All good.
I'll tell you what, go to grv.org.au in the next couple of hours, and Georgie's tips will be on there for Sandown tomorrow night. But in the meantime, Georgie, thank you. That's a wrap for Grey Areas. We'll be back on Friday from midday. In the meantime, let's head to Port Lincoln for the opening race there, John.
And then $10 about LX Placebo. So this is the first of 10. Track rated a good 4, 21 degrees. Nice crisp breeze blowing across the track. There is one late scratching, race 2, number 5, La Loma. Race 2, number 5, La Loma is a late scratching. And the jockey challenge today